Hello, I'm Nigel Caplan from the University of Delaware, and I'm the writer of the new book, Grammar Choices for Graduate and Professional Writers from the University of Michigan Press. Well, I wrote Grammar Choices because it wasn't there. I was teaching graduate students and postdocs and working with faculty, and I needed a grammar book that would help them with just advanced academic written grammar, nothing else, just that. And I needed something that used examples from academic writing, from the kind of writing that they would need to produce, not from fiction, not from conversation, not undergraduate writing, but really academic writing and professional writing too. When I teach graduate students, I find that they need two things. They need an overview of the system of English grammar. They need a sense of the big picture. They've learned a lot of grammar, but they don't always see how to put it together. What they don't need is more rules. There are rules in English, and the rules are important. But at this level, I find they need to know more about how the language is used to make meaning, about the choices we make, because there are so many choices in language. Choice of verb tense, the type of clause we use, how we put it together. And those choices are made depending on the content, depending on the relationship between the reader and writer, and depending on the kind of text that you're writing. And so those were the ideas that the book would focus on the function of grammar and how writers can take advantage of those resources to make the meanings and really control their texts the way they need to. Now, I teach a class in academic writing for graduate students, so of course I use Academic Writing for Graduate Students by John Swales and Swales Feak, also from the University of Michigan Press. And the book, Grammar Choices, was designed to complement that. It can be taught by itself, or I do teach the two together. Academic Writing for Graduate Students has these great language boxes, which give a lot of great ideas about how to expand language resources. So I wanted to complement those and expand on them so that students can see how those fit into the bigger picture, the whole system of English. And being a grammar book, of course, I can give a lot more practice, so students can experiment with making the grammar work for themselves, and also spend some time on common errors, both errors that English as a second language learners will make, and native speakers to some extent, and some editing tasks too, as well as lots of writing and language awareness. We keep the book quite closely to academic writing for graduate students. I borrow a lot of the same, or I use a lot of the same genres and text types that you'll see, data commentaries, summaries, introductions, of course introductions, so that you can really see how the grammar is used in the context of the real writing that graduate and professional students do all the time. We use mostly the same terminology, so there are no contradictions there, and there is a glossary to explain the terms, which I've needed to add in order to give a wider range of grammatical knowledge. And we've cross-referenced where Grammar Choices fits into the kinds of texts and activities that are taught in academic writing for graduate students to make it easier to use them together, and so students can go off and expand and use what they've learned in writing longer texts. There's one other thing I thought was really important with Grammar Choices, because I think a grammar book also needs to be a vocabulary book. Grammar and vocabulary are two sides of the same coin, and I tried to do that in a few ways. There's lots of great vocabulary in academic writing for graduate students. We focused on it in Grammar Choices in a similar way by using the grammar of academic writing in the examples and in the exercises so that students can read, notice, and then practice the vocabulary. Also showing how the grammar and the vocabulary, grammar and lexis, are connected. So where certain vocabulary is used in certain grammar forms, how those two aspects of language interact. Like academic writing for graduate students, Grammar Choices is heavily based on corpus research. None of this is my guesswork about how language works. It's based on published research and also my own studies of the corpus, which again shows language in its natural use, how writers use those grammatical resources to make meanings. And those are some of the features that went into the book. I hope you and your students find the book helpful in seeing how grammar is really used and the choices that academic writers make.